Didn't you meet her?
I did. I was standing well, I didn't meet her. I was standing next to her at a coffee shop, and I like whispered to my dad, "That's Shay Mitchell," and he was like, "Who?" And I was like, "Baze," and he had no idea.
Yeah.
But no, she was really cool in person. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of the Cinderella Report. I'm Anna.
I'm Mackenzie.
And we're super excited to kind of just have an unfiltered take on what it means to be a woman in sports, a woman in business, in entertainment.
There are so many opportunities to be successful, and we're going to take a look at all of them and kind of dissect them and see who's really making power moves.
Okay, do you want to maybe tell them who you are?
My name's Mackenzie. I am 24 today, actually,
Happy
which is
birthday.
like really weird. I grew up an athlete, which Anna has a lot of experience, and we'll talk about that. But after high school, I decided to just live my 4 years of college, really tap into my more creative side, so fashion, beauty, and here we are.
Yeah.
Anna, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, I was an athlete my entire life. I went to college for basketball, and then my third year in, I switched to volleyball. So I did all 4 years playing a sport and really having that be my entire identity. But I had interests outside of being an athlete as well. I was always called to fashion and beauty, and I worked on a TV show out in California when I graduated for a year. We've both taken opportunities, and now we want to talk about kind of the landscape of what it means to be a woman existing today. Playing in the Big Ten on the biggest stage against some of the biggest names like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and, you know, having these girls go and do all of these amazing things and reach new heights. It's been really empowering to see females tap into who they are and really go after something, build a brand, be more than just a face, and really just be multifaceted.
Okay, so you dropped some of the biggest names in the game right now. What was it like being on the same stage as them?
Yeah, I think as a freshman in college, when I was 18 years old, playing against, say, Caitlin Clark, she obviously wasn't as big as she was now because she's a household name now, and she's brought so much more eyes to the game of basketball, made it more exciting. I'm rooting for her now, even though I didn't love playing against her.
I hate to admit it, but I never watched like WNBA or college basketball, but I remember last year watching her in the college championships and like being so emotional about it. It was just like a really cool experience, and everyone was tuned into it. Everyone wanted to watch it. And I think that them being so young, and you keep saying you guys are around the same age, it gives them the experience and the opportunity to really be outspoken about things that bother women in everyday life, and they're in a position of power, so they can talk about the wage gap, they can talk about equality in the WNBA or just in life in general. And I think that's like awesome because we're like Gen Z, so we have to be like outspoken about those things.
Okay, let's talk about our dream team. I know we both brought a starting 5 to the table, kind of like filling out our roster of powerful females. And Serena Williams is our number 1. She's our inspiration behind the Cinderella Report. I saw Serena invested in a new WNBA team in Canada, which is so cool because the WNBA, even a couple of years ago, no one even paid attention to it. And now it's expanding to Canada. Serena Williams has been such a proponent for women in sports. She was never afraid to show her emotion, even when people hated on it. And she's invested in businesses left and right, trying to really just get female businesses off the ground using her platform. She's, you know, the role model for boss women just in general, not even in sport. So she's obviously our number 1 on our roster.
We had the same number 1.
Yeah, we had the same number 1.
We had to.
For number 2 on our roster in terms of, you know, boss women, who'd you have as your number 2?
I obviously had Alex Earl. I just feel like you can't even have a podcast like this right now and not talk about her and just how she has dominated not only the influencer world, but I feel like she has to be celebrity status at this point. I remember being in my college house and going up to my roommate and being like, I love this little blonde girl from Miami. Like, do you watch her Get Ready with Me? He's like, they're so good. And never did you think like she would really become like such fame status.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that brands like working with her because she's not only an influencer, but she brings founder energy, and she really did. She founded, she's co-founder now of Sips Margs.
She invested in
Poppy, right? Yeah. She does so much stuff. I did try Sips Margs. I wanted to like them more, but
really?
I didn't.
Oh, no.
But I mean, it got me and my friends to buy them.
Yeah.
And she really just is an impressive personality all around. And I think we both are going to talk about this, but she's just unapologetically herself. She gets lots of backlash for how much she goes out on parties, her boyfriend, whatever it is, but she really never comments on any of it,
Yeah,
and
she's
still just goes out and lives her
unproblematic.
life, and people want to see that. And I just think that her road to fame and how she has dominated TikTok in general has been like really cool to watch.
Yeah, and I think people have a lot to say because, well, it's probably part jealousy, but they don't think influencers have it very hard. I mean, when she first started out, I don't even think influencer was as much of a term as it is today, but to know you want to influence people, to know you want to be a voice, to know you have, you know, what it takes to share who you are unapologetically, and, you know, have that be something that can change the way people think. And brands recognize that, you know, because she obviously does these insane deals with brands where she's making hundreds of thousands of dollars per post, but, you know, people want to hear what she has to say. And she invested in herself in the very beginning by even just posting on TikTok and continuing to post, whether it got 10 likes or 10,000 likes. And I think that's something that a lot of girls can take away from, is that you just have to keep going. And that's kind of why I had Emma Chamberlain as my influencer pick. She's obviously the OG of YouTube. TikTok now is so accessible, it's in your pocket, but I was a big YouTube girl growing up. I watched like Bethany Moda. I don't know if you know her.
I like remember. I was into MagCon.
Yeah, okay.
I was younger.
Yeah. I was into MagCon too, Cameron Dallas. But I related to Emma because she was making her videos alone, and she just pulled out her camera and sat there and talked to it. She would literally record herself doing watercolor or making a sandwich or going for a run. I was always a very independent soul, kind of on my own. And she literally was doing what I was doing with my life, but just recording it and making it a funny edit. Yeah. And now Emma Chamberlain is on the cover of Vogue, and so is Alex, actually. But they're so relatable. No one gave them a platform. No one put them on TV. They're not in a movie, but we're still watching, and I'm even more engaged than I am watching TV shows or watching movies. In terms of an influencer, when we talk about Alex and Emma, they're two definitely people who deserve a spot on our roster.
100%. They're relatable. That's really what it is. Yeah. They're relatable to just normal people like us who are like, oh my gosh, that could be me one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Number 3, I went a little bit of a different route, but I chose Livy Dunn. That was only because I saw she made almost $10 million just in NIL deals. Yeah. And that's really impressive for someone who I would assume just got there by leveraging her looks and her personality on social media, like utilizing TikTok to her fullest advantage, just posting whatever content she wanted. And now she's the face of Viore and whatnot. But I thought that number was so impressive that I was like, all right, she has to be somewhere up there. And I think we're talking a lot about basketball and WNBA, but there's a lot of other sports out there that women are really making a name for themselves in. Yeah. So like her or not, she made a lot of money just being herself too.
Yeah, which really, that's something that wasn't even possible when I was a freshman in college or sophomore in college. For our watchers who don't know what NIL is, it's when collegiate athletes can utilize their name, image, and likeness to now make money and, you know, monetize their social media or do a brand deal. $10 million as a college athlete is insane. That wasn't even money professional female athletes were making a couple years ago, and really still isn't. For mine, I had Paige Beckers. She's literally our age, like my age. She was just the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft. More than anything, when we talk about the Cinderella Report, Paige is such a great person to have on our roster because she's really made it a point to bring other women with her on her journey. She has really been such a champion for racial equity and women's sports. She was the first collegiate athlete to have a shoe deal with Nike. She did a deal with Unrivaled where she'll make triple her WNBA salary in the first season, but she's, you know, building her brand at the same time, which is something that I think is so cool. Just goes to show how multifaceted someone can be on and off the court.
I remember seeing interviews of her or like the post game, and she always talks about her teammates. Like they'll ask her a question, but then she always brings it back to someone else. So that just kind of shows her character.
All right, so for your number 4, you wanted to talk about Bethany Frankel. I know you're a fan.
I do want to talk about her. I don't know if I'm a fan. I think she's like very entertaining. The first video I saw of her came up on my TikTok because I did not watch Real Housewives of New York. She was talking about how she trademarked Skinny Girl, and I probably knew Skinny Girl before I even knew who she was. She was just talking about like mistakes she had made along the way, how she should have trademarked in other sectors. And it was just like interesting to me because I had no prior knowledge on that. And I watched the whole video thinking like, wow, that's something I never would have known. And I thought it was cool that she was just like sharing that information to anybody who wanted to watch her TikTok. And I watch her videos. I think she's just unapologetically herself. She's very independent. She has her young daughter. And I think she just gives silly advice. Someone who is very successful, who has a lot of money and is like, oh, don't buy that, or buy this is worth it. She does her drugstore makeup reviews. Like she just is herself all over social media, whether you like it or not, but she's there.
Something that's interesting is she's a little bit older and she has all of this experience under her belt, and now she has this platform where she can share tips and tricks of how she got there, lessons learned along the way, and is not really like gatekeeping any of the things she did to get to that point, whether it was negotiation tactics or, as you said, like trademarking here and there. Like those are things you don't think of and are just so good to know, because watching her videos, it makes me feel like, oh, any idea I have is possible. That's a beautiful thing about social media too.
Yeah.
And especially with a personality like hers, you know, she's someone who can get your attention, tell a story. For mine, I was a big Pretty Little Liars fan growing up, and Shay Mitchell was on Pretty Little Liars, and now I feel like even more people may know her for her Baze bags, which have really kind of taken the world by storm. You see at least 20 when you walk through the airport. Shay Mitchell, the founder of Baze, was an actress, but now, you know, she's the brain behind this brand.
I like that you brought up Shay Mitchell because I think I knew about Baze before I knew about her. I don't know why I'm so backwards in the trends, but I never was a Pretty Little Liars girl until like I used to watch it in college with my house, and we would call it PLLing, and we'd like text me like, can we PLL tonight? But anyway, I did get a Baze bag for Christmas, and I used it for the first time in the airport last weekend, and it was so like functional. It was so easy, and like three of us I had the green one, someone had a blue one, someone had a pink one, and we looked like a walking Baze ad. I was like, oh, Shay Mitchell, you should sponsor us. No, she definitely is a really cool entrepreneur to talk about.
Yeah, and she's a great example of someone who is in the world of entertainment, who has this great talent of being an actress. She's also a model. Like she's this beautiful face, but saw a niche, saw a need for a product, and she's just a great example, a great person to have on our roster. Okay, for our final spot, this is a big one. Who's our 5th star on our roster?
This is like a last but not least situation because I want to talk about Rihanna. So I feel like maybe she's the most powerful on my list. I've always been a Rihanna fan. And we were talking about like women going into different sectors. So like Shay Mitchell could have stayed an actress, but she was like, you know what? I want to do this too. And Rihanna like started as a musician, and we have not gotten any music from her in like, how long has it been?
Almost 10 years.
Right?
Yeah.
But here she is. She's got Fenty Beauty, Fenty Skin, Fenty as a brand. She has the Fenty fashion show. And we were talking about this earlier, but I personally think that Fenty Beauty is the only makeup brand that I buy that I actually like, not just because it's a celebrity. Like maybe I bought the contour stick because it was trending years ago, but I actually really like Fenty makeup.
She's such a talent as a singer, but beauty and fashion coincides with being a performer, and I think she recognized that and then really leaned into that.
And so speaking more on Rihanna and just tying it back to the Cinderella Report as a whole and uplifting women, obviously Fenty, the clothing brand itself, was all about body positivity. I mean, I watched the Fenty fashion show and it was just all inclusive. Nobody looked the same. Like everybody looked different. And I just love Rihanna for that. But they're really one of the bigger makeup brands that introduced like skin tone range. They set the stage for a lot of other makeup brands to then have to meet them there and really expand their range and make their makeup more inclusive to all of their people.
Who I want to talk about for my 5th spot on the roster is Maureen Kelly, the CEO and founder of Tarte. She's a mom. She's super relatable. She shared her story from starting Tarte in 1999 and then losing her husband during 9/11, but it was a passion of hers, and she saw the vision and just went after it. She's a really great example of a female CEO and founder who just gets it.
And I think just relating it back again to social media and how it's really paved the way for women to be successful. I didn't know Maureen Kelly's name. Obviously I knew about Tarte, but I didn't know her name before social media and TikTok and Trippin' with Tarte. And now not only is her brand successful, but I think her name as a brand is successful.
Okay, you ready for Let's Put That in the Group Chat?
I'm ready for Let's Put That in the Group Chat. And I think Maureen Kelly was a good person to end with, because this takes us from tripping with Tart into what we want to talk about, which is influencers at these prestige events that maybe the regular person like you and I aren't necessarily attending. So what did you think? What did your girls think?
The consensus was it depends who we're talking about. So if influencers are at the Met Gala, is it someone who aligns with the purpose of the Met Gala, or is it Jake Paul who no offense to Jake Paul, for a big event like the Kentucky Derby where brands can dress someone, or they can give someone a place to stay, or maybe they're having a party at the Kentucky Derby that they want Alex Earl to be at. It's of course they're gonna invite Alex Earl. Millions of people are watching her.
But then the other question is, I guess people who have been going to these events for years, I think, are annoyed at the accessibility of it now. And do you want these events to be accessible to, I guess, the average person is the question now that everybody knows them.
And I think it's a generational thing as well.
And the brands are so smart for Coachella specifically. I mean, it was like more than ever this year, just in your face. I think like any person you followed on TikTok was at Coachella with a brand. But it is so smart, because then you house these people, but you're like, you have to wear these clothes, like we have to dress you, and then you can go to the festival. And Coachella is such a fashion forward event where everybody wants to see what everyone else is wearing, so it's an awesome opportunity for these brands to have these, like, be able to dress these influencers in their clothes that maybe they wouldn't have worn, and then get to go and show it off. I think it's cool.
No one can go to a fashion show. No one's watching a fashion show on TV, but they're watching Emma Chamberlain's TikTok and, you know, or her YouTube. And if she's wearing Prada, then that's how people are going to find out about Prada. Not because they're coming to the fashion show, or not because they're watching it in a commercial. More than ever, like, beauty and fashion and sports are all coming together to, like, create all these super, like, multifaceted brands and people.
I think my hot take about all of this is women influencers are becoming, like, on the same level as, like, men in sports. Like, they have such this platform, and there's so much opportunity for success. So I always remember growing up, or even just like in college, being like, damn, if I was a man, I would play football and my life would be set. Like,
and people would bow down.
It's not that easy, but that's how you think about things like that. And so now women have this space to really dominate. Not that there's not male influencers the same way that it's not like there's not women in sports, but it's just like almost has like leveled the playing field in a sense, where there is opportunity to be uber successful the same way we see male athletes become insanely wealthy.
This has been a really great first episode. I'm excited to dive into more topics and hopefully have some guests on.
We're living in this like era of constant change, but I think it's really benefiting us as women who are up and coming.
The world is our oyster, you know?
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for watching the first episode of the Cinderella Report. Stay tuned for more episodes dropping soon. And yeah, comment, like, subscribe, follow, all of the above.
Put us in your group chat.
Yeah, put this in the group chat. Call us, text us, let us know what you want to see.
Bye.